Hi, folks. Welcome to our 5th annual Illuminate conference. For those of you who've hung with us for the last couple of hours, this is our final breakout session in our Getting Started and Best Practices on Using Sumo Logic security track. We are honored to have the security team from North American Bancard with us today, and their session is titled Cloud SIEM in the Palm of Your Hand. I think you're going to really love this. But before we get started, I want to orient you into where this conversation falls within the spectrum of all of our security solutions that we offer here at Sumo Logic, from audit and compliance all the way to our cloud source solutions. This topic is going to be focusing on Cloud SIEM. This is our solution that helps you to automatically triage alerts and detect threats and perform threat hunting and investigation workflows. So with that, let's introduce you to the team. Aaron Weaver is here today, Director of Cloud Security with North American Bancard, as well as Owen Dubell, Information Security Engineer with North American Bancard. I'm Dana Torgerson, Director of Product Marketing here with Sumo, and I have the honor actually of guiding this conversation with these folks from North American Bancard. And you might be wondering, who is North American Bancard? What are they? Well, they're actually a payments technology enterprise, and they're based in Troy, Michigan, here in the United States. They were founded in 1992, and they've got now more than 1,300 employees. Now, they provide credit card processing and merchant services for hundreds of thousands of some of your favorite companies and businesses, from Burger King, British Petroleum, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, Honda, to name just a few. And they're helping process more than $45 billion in transactions annually. And here's the kicker. All of this is secured by a SOC team of 2 folks. And you've got them right here today. So welcome, Aaron, and also welcome, Owen.
Thanks for having us.
Delighted to be here.
It's our honor, actually. We appreciate having our customers be able to come out, especially for our user conference, Illuminate. Again, this is our 5th annual. So let me get started and guide this conversation that you gentlemen wanted to do. And this is really, if you could explain, and maybe this is a question for Owen, how would you describe your SIEM journey? Like how did you find Sumo Logic, and what were some of the trials and tribulations along the way?
Absolutely, man, and we've definitely had quite a journey here with the different SIEM solutions. So I started with North American Bancard, and we were a Splunk shop. And my past experience has been primarily Splunk as well. So I was quite familiar. We had a Splunk cloud instance, and the whole idea was, you come in and we want to utilize Splunk the best we can. And make sure that all our different data sources were accounted for, get some dashboarding going, ensure we have a lot of custom processes within our umbrella of companies. So a lot of custom rules needed to be created. And a couple of the issues we ran into with Splunk overall was that, it's built for that large enterprise. And it was tough for 1 or 2 people to really grasp onto it and own it in a full-time role when you're in charge of other aspects of security for the enterprise. So that was one thing, is it was really bogging us down from a resource perspective. And then also from it being a cloud solution, there was a lot of manual work on the back end that we were still responsible for doing, whether it was, updating ingesters, a lot of manual efforts that we didn't account for. And then also on top of it, Splunk's, they're a beast in the industry, and so is their price point. So with all of our data ingestion that we had to bring on for these different, sister entities that we have for credit card processing, it wasn't going to work out for us in the long term. So moving on from Splunk, we played around a little bit with a couple different solutions, and we discovered SecureOnyx. Now, SecureOnyx up front promised us that true next-gen machine learning, AI-infused SIEM solution. We did a POC with them. It turned out great. We were blown away. They were able to get us up and going pretty quickly with all of our data sources. So we're like, okay, let's go for it. We pulled the trigger with them, and as soon as they flipped us over, we pretty much immediately noticed that there was a big difference in their POC environment to their production environment, resource-wise. There was major availability issues. We would go days where we'd realize, oh, hey, this data source is just not logging for the past 2 days. Happened pretty frequently. I'd say on a weekly basis, probably. And then on top of that, we weren't impressed with the lack of the automation that we kind of expected would be in a next gen solution. There was a lot of behind the scenes work that would happen. Even things as simple as like onboarding a new data source, it wasn't all baked into the solution. Their documentation site, it was pretty poor, and we even had to even onboard a data source, we had to get someone on the phone and go through all the strides there. So we determined, what, Secure Onyx is not the solution. So did a little bit more shopping, stumbled on Sumo Logic.
Okay.
Finally. And from the get-go, Sumo Logic was great. We had our hesitations due to the failures with Secure Onyx, but we got a POC going, got that going up in 2 weeks or so, and also we were on a tight crunch line from a compliance perspective in order to get all our data sources and the retention that we needed for the compliance for our industry. So got Sumo Logic up and running, decided this was the solution we wanted to go with, flipped it over to production, seamless transition, and the support team was great as far as getting even custom data sources going, getting some of their built-in dashboards working for us quickly so that we could really have that seamless transition, both from a security and compliance perspective.
Excellent, excellent. Well, what now that you've come to Sumo Logic and you're utilizing our Cloud SIEM solution, what would you say you like most about Cloud SIEM? Any features come to mind that you've stumbled across or that you really enjoy, or maybe it's been a godsend for you?
Well, for me, when I looked at a SIEM, you want to customize a SIEM to your organization because there's specific rules that you want to create. You want to be creating these rules, very quickly in some cases. You want to be able to import rules from maybe external sources. So for us, the ability to intuitively create rules and notifications was really was really high on the priority list for our criteria. So being able to define, here's what we want to action on, here's how we'd like it to alert, here's the severity, creating all those things in other tools was very cumbersome, as Owen was talking through. So when we were looking for this solution, we were looking for something that would allow us to quickly and easily create these rules so that we could action on them. In particular, the one rule that we'll show here is that we can take a predefined rule and we can tune it. So some of the things that we've discovered in other SIEM solutions is that you're taking a rule that's been created by the vendor, and then you're copying that rule and then you're customizing it. And then as that rule sort of ages out, you're losing the benefit of the updates to that rule. So it's critical to have this rule tuning piece where you can take rules, you can apply them, and then you can either make an exclusion as we show here, or you can further refine it. Because we all suffer from information overload. We get too many alerts. And so we really have to make those rules very custom to what we're looking for. And this is the part where I feel like SIEMs fall down, where you're spending so much time tuning that you're not really getting any value out of the platform. And that's what we were discovering in some of these others. As we mentioned, we're not a big team, we're not that large. And so we need to be able to spend time doing things, and only really, if we can do it once, that's really where we want to be at. We don't have to be constantly, oh, now we've got to go here, and now it's some big massive query that we have to figure out that we don't quite know how it looks. Everything to us is fairly logically defined out so that we can quickly go in there and make our changes as we need to. Oh, and I wasn't sure if there's anything else you'd like to mention on this.
Yeah, one great feature that was rolled out recently, I think it was this year, is that global confidence score, especially for a smaller team. It's basically a little score that the Sumo Logic platform assesses per detection or insight, as they call it.
Mhm.
And it gives us, based on monitoring of our entire environment and all the logs we have ported in there, it gives us a score of 1 to 100 of how likely they feel, that Sumo Logic feels that this could be something legitimate. And when you're receiving, as a small team, when you receive 20, 25, 30, however many insight alerts a day, this helps really refine your focus of what needs to be looked into first. And I really appreciate that feature for sure.
That makes perfect sense as you're trying to triage those insights. The concept that we built in our Cloud SIEM is that we're doing that funnel fidelity, and we're giving you that handful of insights. And then we started getting feedback. I think the product team was working on this even back last year in 2020, that couldn't we tap into our global intelligence service that we've got and use our predictive machine learning models and actually service up this global confidence score. So the fact that you guys are seeing value in that, that's awesome, because that means that of those insights we hand you, now you know exactly which ones are actionable and likely a true positive versus a false positive, it sounds like.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Any other rules or features come to mind, or any performance benefits that you've noticed? Obviously, with a team of two, you folks are doing so much with such limited bandwidth and resources. Have you found a reduction in your mean time to identify some attacks that are out there, or your response time might have also been improved?
Well, I will say with this one, two things here is that with our other SIEM solutions, we were more concerned about, is the data getting there? And so we were spending an inordinate amount of time on saying, hey, do we actually have the data so that we can actually action on it? I mean, if a SIEM's not getting the data, obviously it's not going to tell you anything. It's going to be worthless. So we shifted from being, so concerned and having all these alerts set up to see if we were getting our data, to actually then being able to focus on what you get a SIEM for, right? It is to actually, that funnel, to actually see those alerts as they come through and then be able to tune. So that was huge for us. And I like the fact that, we can go back into core, we can further do queries across data sources, and we can see all those things. So those two were just huge for us.
Awesome. Owen, anything that you've also experienced too, that tangible ways that the solution has been able to help in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think any business would appreciate your guys' pricing model on data source ingestion. Just the way that you guys allow us to, per our use case, if we're bringing in data into your CSE, your SIEM solution, and there's actual correlation happening, you get, you're getting charged the certain rate there. But if you have use cases where, hey, all I need to do is store this data for a year. That's all I need to do with it. I don't actually need it for any correlation, for any logical means, then that's a different rate. And not many solutions offer that. It was basically all or nothing. You're ingesting it, you're paying whatever the flat rate is, which was a pain point, because then at that point we're forced to, leave out data that could be valuable in detections.
So you found yourselves cutting some of those lower severity events and logs, and they were just hitting the floor. And so you were never really feeding it into your previous solutions, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, if we have a budget that we have to hit, I mean, that it is what it is. I don't, we had to find ways to get around it. And you guys give us that flexibility to still have that value.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you for that. Well, let's also, we've been talking about how you've been using it. So now if we were to think in terms of modernizing security operations, and that's really our mission here at Sumo Logic for security, how does your modern SOC now look? What's it look like? Anything interesting that you're working on, and what's next? What's in the future for you guys?
So for sure. So when I look at a tool, a security tool in particular, I say, and I stole this from one of my friends, he says, show me your API first, and then I will look at your UI. So, the UI is very good. And so there's a lot of work that's been done there, and it is very intuitive. And I enjoy actually using it. But furthermore, I want to integrate with the tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. We're not always by our computers. We're in different places. We're fairly mobile. And so we looked at, well, what are some of the other options? And what I also noticed too is some of the newer folks coming in, they actually don't even like interacting with, alerts from emails or those kinds of things. They don't even want to look at their emails anymore. They want everything on Slack. So, one of the first benefits that we found was we could easily integrate with Webhooks. So one of the first things that we did was we took, some of the reporting capabilities that you can create, and then we just output those to Slack on a regular basis, simply telling us, hey, are there trends that are happening that we can customize to our certain use cases? Are there things that we should be looking at? Sometimes we sort them different ways to see if different events are bubbling up that we might need to, pay attention to, that we're not for sure, we don't know about. And so that's just one example that we have here. We have several of those that we have coming in. And that was just one small example. And that's really, actually, it's very easy to do. Webhooks are very easy to do. And it was simple to configure on the platform. But then we said, okay, can we take it a step further? Can we make it more interactive? And then that's where we started to look at, well, let's see if we could bring in the signals and see what those signals look like. So we have the ability now, when we created a Slack bot, which is where we can take those insights that come in, and we can show the value of that. So when an insight comes, we can triage on it. So what you're seeing now is in this insight, we're seeing that it executed, and we're getting it within a second of it firing. I mean, it's just the same time it happens that you see it in the UI. You're getting that alert, and we wanted to see, could we keep all of that within Slack? And so within Slack, you can expand and you can contract the windows. So it's right in that view. And the fact that we have it on a shared ops channel where, other teams can pop in there, they can see what's going on. It really made it more beneficial for us and started to, I think in some ways, bring security from it's a security thing to, other folks in the organization can start to see what's going on in the SIEM. So it's not just us in that channel, there's others in there as well. And so we started with a high level of, here's the insight. You can see exactly what's happening. You can go and click in Sumo if you'd like, but maybe it's off hours and you just want to be able to view that, see what's going on. And you can see there we have several different levels here. So we can go down into the signal level, where you can actually see, okay, here's exactly what's happening. You can see how all those signals then bubble up to that insight. And then it goes even further where we can go down into the actual entity, because oftentimes you'll see IP addresses or you'll see some host name and you're like, well, I don't know what that is. There's so many hosts that are out there. It's like, well, what precisely is that? So we also wanted to be able to show that view, and you can very quickly and easily see, hey, okay, this is the associated entity for exactly what happened. So that's where we were looking to go towards, and that was some of the ideas that we have. And I think there's just a lot of I feel like we're just on the tip here of the things that we can do as far as the Slack integration goes. You see, finally. So this last one is kind of interesting too. Is if Owen responds or if I respond, that's just added as a comment in under that. Under that Slack bot. So it's kind of like we're actually having a conversation with our SIEM.
Wow. And all of this is being held in Slack so that it's all categorized and it's in order and it's searchable as well for you folks?
Correct. And as we type things, obviously, everybody can see that as well. So it's not like it's just, private conversation here, which I think is extremely important, especially with the team. Even though our team's not large, there's other operations folks that are there. And you can see what's actually happening. And I think that's a huge value.
Wow. I remember when we talked ahead of time, you gentlemen mentioned that you also have the ability to write from Slack. You're able to take actions. Could you describe that as well?
Yeah, for sure. So what we do is you can comment directly from Slack. You can say, hey, I don't think this is an issue, or this is an issue. We should start to take a look at it. We can set the statuses in Slack. We can assign it. And then what we did with our EDR is we said, okay, well, what are the EDR functionalities? So say there's an insight and we're like, this is something we've got to take a look at right now. So we can do a real-time response, which is that RTR button on the left there, which will allow us to then connect to that remote host to interact with it directly if it's online. Or if we look at it and say, you know what, there's actually maybe something that we need to stop right now, we can just hit net contain, and that'll pause all network connectivity within that host. And we're all able to do that within Slack, all merged into that same, thread that we're getting under an insight.
Oh my gosh. And this is so EDR that you're utilizing, I'm guessing, is CrowdStrike based on these phrases here that you've integrated
Correct.
with. So you've got a Slack, Sumo, CrowdStrike three-way integration. Are there any future plans to bring in other technologies and tap into their APIs and get them in this central place that you folks are now enjoying?
Yeah, we do have others. Like, for example, we have Tenable, where we can interact directly with it. We can start scans from Slack. So there's been a lot of conversation, just about chat ops in general, like from years ago. Well, then what does that look like in a SOC situation? With the ability, we built this all with our team. We're not programmers per se, but we have another person that does do a lot of our development for us. And so what's neat about it is that we can iterate pretty quickly. As soon as we see an issue or we see, hey, this would be an awesome feature to add, we go ahead and do it. We don't have to wait for anything. I think that's the ability. And I think that's where you make security tools actually work for your environment. Sumo can only do so much. I mean, there's only so many cases. It doesn't need to be the Microsoft Word of the world. We can take those APIs and then customize them to what we really need, not like, what we think something is. And of course, you folks will take something if it'll benefit the broader community and incorporate it for sure.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we wanted to demonstrate how modern your SOC has been. I don't know if it gets any more modern than this. I mean, speaking the language of today's up and coming security professionals, utilizing this approachable technology and this integration that you guys have come up with. This is really amazing. I also want to point out that you have more folks at North American Bancard involved in security, but the two of you, I guess, is what we would probably consider like the SOC folks. But you've got folks in compliance as well in other areas because of the nature of your business.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, let's wrap it up here. Could you share some of the lessons that you've learned? I mean, in this journey through this wasteland of SIEMs out there, this 20, 25-year-old technology landscape, and you're rifling between different solutions and you found Sumo. What would you share with others so they could avoid that pain that you folks had encountered?
For sure, for me is easy rule tuning. Really making that SIEM yours was of the utmost importance.
For me, for sure, is just data management, being able to scale when we needed to, manage all of our data as far as pricing goes, but also just being able to organize our different retentions that we needed in order to just remain compliant, remain secure, make sure we've got everything we need in order to, formulate on that part one of the rule creation. Because both are essential for each other there.
Yeah. Then finally, just as we were speaking about, it was just the API integrations. So it's extremely important. So you're seeing things that are released, new features in Sumo that are coming out. And either at the same time or very closely thereafter, you're seeing that same capability being released in the API. And that's really what we want to see from a security tool. We want to be able to access the API. We want to be able to get the data out in the ways that we need to. And, Sumo was able to do that for us.
Oh, that's excellent. Owen, anything else to add?
No, I'm just, Sumo's definitely taken our security game to the next level for sure, and it's allowed me personally to get some time back in my day in order to explore other avenues in the realm of security that allow us to only strengthen our stance.
Wow. Well, I'm not going to say anything more. Let's just end it right there. Thank you both for your time. Thank you to North American Bancard. Aaron, Owen, appreciate your time as always. And for the rest of you folks, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to the team and maybe dig deeper into how they've gone beyond modernization, it seems like. Aaron, we've got your email information here. Owen, and of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can connect you to the right folks here within Sumo Logic, whether it's in the marketing, the product, or the sales team. Any questions? Because maybe you folks aren't yet exposed or using our Cloud SIEM solution. Definitely talk to your Sumo Logic rep or your authorized Sumo Logic reseller, and we'll get you set up as soon as we can. With that, again, I'm Dana Torgerson. Thank you, Owen and Aaron.
Thanks for having us.